A racist hotel manager demands a black woman leave his lobby. He laughs in her face, calling security to have her thrown out like trash. But that manager has just made the biggest mistake of his career. He has no idea who he is talking to, and he is about to find out in the most humiliating way possible. This is the story of how one man's arrogance led to his complete and total destruction. The lobby of the Sterling Grand is a cathedral built to honor money. Sunlight, sliced thin by towering columns of Italian marble, paints the polished floor in strokes of liquid gold. The air itself seems different here, filtered and scented with something expensive and subtle, a blend of imported lilies and quiet power. It is a kingdom, and like any kingdom, it has a king. His name is Arthur Finch, and he patrols his domain not with a scepter, but with a stare. It is a stare he has cultivated over 20 years in luxury hospitality, a look that can assess the value of a watch at 50 paces and dismiss a human being with a single, contemptuous blink. Arthur Finch is a man carved from granite and prejudice. His suit is a severe, dark gray armor. His tie is a silken noose. His posture is a declaration of superiority. He moves through the opulence not as a steward, but as a warden, ensuring the pristine unreality of the space is not contaminated by the undesirable. Today, he sees a contaminant. She is sitting in a plush, velvet armchair near the grand fireplace, a space usually occupied by women with surgically tightened faces and heirloom pearls. This woman is different. She is black, for one, which in Arthur's meticulously curated world is a variable that requires immediate assessment. Her clothes are simple, clean, and comfortable, a pair of dark trousers, a soft cashmere sweater. They are not designer. There is no ostentatious handbag resting at her feet, no flash of diamonds on her fingers. She is, in his expert opinion, an anomaly. An error in the carefully constructed matrix of his lobby. She is looking at her phone, a small, quiet smile on her face. To an observer with a soul, she might look like a woman peacefully waiting for a friend. To Arthur Finch, she looks like a problem. A weed in his immaculate garden. He begins his approach. It is a practiced, predatory glide. He does not hurry. He wants her to feel the weight of his approach, to sense the shift in the atmosphere that his presence commands. He wants her to feel the chill of his judgment before he even speaks a word. A few guests, men in sharp suits and women in flowing dresses, notice his trajectory and instinctively clear a path, as if sensing the impending execution. Maya Vance feels the change in the air. She doesn't look up from her phone, but she is aware. She has a preternatural sensitivity to environments, an almost psychic ability to read the currents of power in a room. It is a skill honed over a decade in a profession where noticing the unnoticed is the difference between success and failure. She feels the focused beam of hostile attention. She knows it is directed at her. She keeps her expression serene, her thumb scrolling idly on her screen. The lock screen image is of a smiling, freckle-faced girl of about 8, her arm thrown around Maya's neck in a joyful hug. Arthur Finch arrives. He stops directly in front of her, casting a long, sharp shadow that swallows her in the armchair in darkness. He does not speak immediately. He lets the silence stretch, a tool he often uses to create discomfort, to make the other person feel small and obligated to fill the void with an explanation, an apology, a confession. Maya does not oblige. She slowly lifts her head, her eyes meeting his. Her gaze is neutral, patient. It is the calm surface of a deep, cold lake. "Can I help you?" Arthur asks. The words themselves are polite, but the tone is an accusation. It is the verbal equivalent of a police siren. It does not ask, it demands. It does not offer assistance, it implies transgression. "No, thank you," Maya replies, her voice soft but clear. "I'm fine." "Are you a guest at this hotel?" he presses, his voice dropping a half octave, taking on the hard, flat edge of an interrogator. "I'm waiting for someone," she says simply, offering no further information. Her calmness is a stone wall against which his aggression breaks. It infuriates him. People like her are supposed to be flustered. They are supposed to stammer, to shrink under his authority. Waiting, he repeats the word, drawing it out, turning it into something sordid. "This is a private lobby, madam. It is for the exclusive use of our registered guests. It is not a public waiting area." He gestures vaguely at the grandeur around them, as if its sheer expense should be enough to make her feel unworthy. "I'm aware," Maya says. She still hasn't moved. Her posture remains relaxed, a stark contrast to his rigid, confrontational stance. "I won't be long." This placid defiance is more than Arthur Finch can stand. It is a challenge to the very foundation of his worldview. He is the manager of the Sterling Grand. He is the arbiter of who belongs and who does not. This woman, with her plain clothes and her unnerving composure, is telling him that his judgment, his authority, means nothing. He leans in slightly, lowering his voice to a conspiratorial, menacing hiss. "Perhaps I wasn't clear. We have a certain standard to maintain. A clientele that expects a certain level of exclusivity. Your presence is disrupting the ambience." The insult is exquisitely crafted, designed to wound without leaving a visible mark. He is calling her disruptive simply by existing. He is calling her poor, unwelcome, and undesirable. Maya's expression does not change, but something in her eyes hardens. The calm lake now has a layer of ice forming on its surface. "The only thing disrupting the ambience, Mr. Finch," he snaps. "Arthur Finch. The general manager," he says the title like it's a royal decree. "The only thing disrupting the ambience, Mr. Finch," Maya continues, her voice still quiet but now laced with steel, "is your decision to conduct this accusatory interview in the middle of your lobby. Checkmate." He feels a flash of hot rage. She has turned his own logic against him. He is the one creating a scene. He can feel the eyes of other guests on them now. They see him, the powerful manager, looming over a seated black woman. The optics are, for a fleeting moment, a concern. But his arrogance quickly smothers that concern. He is the king here. His actions are, by definition, correct. It is she who is wrong. A young bellhop named Leo, who has been watching with growing alarm from across the lobby, decides to intervene. He is new, idealistic, and possesses a basic human decency that has not yet been ground out of him by the hospitality industry. He scurries over, a pitcher of iced water in his hand. "Mr. Finch, sir," he begins, his voice trembling slightly. "May I offer the lady some water?" "It's a warm day," he smiles nervously at Maya, a small act of solidarity. Arthur Finch turns his head slowly, fixing Leo with a reptilian stare. The look is so full of venom that Leo physically flinches, the pitcher rattling in his hand. "Go and polish the luggage carts, Leo. Now. Before you find yourself polishing hubcaps for a living." Leo pales. "Yes, sir." "Sorry, sir," he practically flees, his attempt at kindness brutally crushed. Finch turns back to Maya, a smug smirk twisting his lips. He has reasserted his dominance. He has demonstrated his power to his underlings and to this defiant woman. "As I was saying," he continues, his voice dripping with condescension, "we have policies. Rules. They are in place to ensure the comfort and security of our actual guests. People like you often get confused about where they are welcome. The phrase, 'people like you,' hangs in the air, thick and poisonous. It is the core of his entire argument. It is the rotten heart of his worldview." Maya finally makes a move. She slowly, deliberately, places her phone face down on the small table beside her chair. Then she folds her hands in her lap. She looks up at him, and for the first time, she allows a flicker of her true feelings to show. It is not fear. It is not anger. It is a profound, weary pity. "Mr. Finch," she says, her voice dangerously soft. "You are making a very, very big mistake." The audacity of the statement stuns him. A mistake? Him? He, who has navigated the treacherous currents of this world with unerring precision, who has built a career on the solid bedrock of his own infallible judgment. The suggestion is so absurd, so utterly preposterous, that he laughs. It is not a pleasant sound. It is a sharp, ugly bark of derision that echoes in the high-ceilinged lobby. "A mistake," he scoffs, shaking his head in theatrical disbelief. "Oh, I assure you, madam, the only mistake here was your decision to wander into a place where you so clearly do not belong. But don't worry. It's a mistake I am about to rectify." His hand goes to his lapel, where a small, discreet radio is clipped. He is raising the stakes. He is moving from veiled threats to open warfare. "Security," he says, his voice now booming with theatrical authority for the benefit of the onlookers. "I need a team at the main lobby fireplace. We have a trespasser who needs to be escorted from the premises. He looks down at Maya, his eyes glittering with triumph. This is the final act. The public humiliation. The ultimate victory. You will be issued a formal trespass notice, he informs her, savoring each word. That means if you ever set foot on this property again, for any reason, you will be immediately arrested. Do you understand? He expects tears. He expects pleading. He expects a panicked, desperate scramble to leave before the guards arrive. He gets none of it. Maya simply watches him, her expression unreadable. Her phone on the table beside her lights up, the screen illuminating the photo of the little girl, Lily. Finch's eyes dart to the image. His mind, steeped in prejudice, leaps to the most cynical conclusion possible. A cruel, knowing sneer spreads across his face. He feels he has finally solved the puzzle of her presence. It's a scam. Of course it is. I see, he says, his voice oozing with false understanding. He points a perfectly manicured finger at the phone. Now you're using pictures of children. Is that part of the grift? A prop to make you look more sympathetic? What kind of scam are you running here? Are you collecting for some fake charity? Meeting a client. He leans closer, his voice dropping to a stage whisper that is still loud enough for the nearest tables to hear. You people are all the same. Always preying on the decency of others. It's pathetic. That is the moment the line is crossed. It is no longer about her clothes or her presence in his lobby. He has attacked her character. He has called her a criminal. And worst of all, he has desecrated the pure, loving image of her goddaughter, twisting it into something ugly and transactional. The ice in Maya's eyes does not just crack, it shatters, revealing a core of frozen, blue-white fire. The weariness is gone. The pity is gone. All that remains is a cold, focused, and absolute resolve. She has absorbed his prejudice, his threats, his public humiliation. But this final, vile accusation, is something she will not absorb. It is something she will return to him, 1,000-fold. She picks up her phone. Her thumb hovers over the screen. Finch mistakes the action for a sign of surrender, a move to call off whatever pathetic scheme she was running. He smirks, victorious. The security guards are approaching now, 2 large men in crisp uniforms, their faces impassive. They are his instruments, the physical manifestation of his will. The lobby has fallen into a hushed silence. Everyone is watching the drama unfold. The powerful manager, the defiant woman, the approaching guards. It is a tableau of power and powerlessness. And then, a sound cuts through the thick, tense air. It is not the crackle of a security radio, nor the murmur of the crowd. It is the clear, high-pitched voice of a child. Auntie Maya. The voice is a bell of pure joy, ringing through the marble cathedral. Every head turns towards the grand entrance. A little girl, no older than 8, with a cascade of blonde curls and a sprinkle of freckles across her nose, is breaking away from her mother's hand. She is dressed in the smart navy blue blazer of the city's most exclusive private school. She is running, her patent leather shoes slapping against the marble floor, her arms outstretched. She runs directly to the velvet armchair. Directly to the woman Arthur Finch has just branded a criminal. Lily Sterling launches herself into Maya's arms, burying her face in her godmother's neck. You came. You came. I missed you so much. Arthur Finch freezes. His jaw goes slack. His brain, which moments ago was firing on all cylinders of self-righteous fury, grinds to a screeching halt. He sees the girl. He sees the crest on her school blazer. He sees the woman who follows her, a graceful, elegant woman with an air of effortless command. He has seen that woman in pictures, in magazines, in the hotel's own promotional materials. It is Elizabeth Sterling. The wife of Marcus Sterling. The owner of this hotel, and every other hotel that bears his name. Mrs. Sterling glides towards them, a warm, apologetic smile on her face. Maya, darling, I am so sorry we're late. Traffic was an absolute nightmare. I hope you haven't been waiting long. Finch feels the blood drain from his face. It is as if a trapdoor has opened beneath him, dropping him into an abyss of ice-cold dread. The name. Lily had called her Auntie Maya, Mrs. Sterling had called her Maya, darling. His mind struggles to connect the dots, but the picture it forms is so horrifying, so utterly catastrophic, that he rejects it. It cannot be. The two security guards have stopped in their tracks, their professional impassivity replaced by wide-eyed confusion. They look from Finch to Mrs. Sterling, then to the woman being hugged by the owner's daughter, and back to Finch, their expressions asking a silent, panicked question. Mrs. Sterling's warm smile vanishes as she takes in the scene. She sees the two guards. She sees the rigid, terrified posture of her general manager. She looks at Maya, whose face is a mask of cold fury. Her voice, when she speaks to Finch, has lost all its warmth. It is as sharp and cold as a shard of glass. "Arthur, what is going on here? Why are your security guards approaching my daughter's godmother?" The final piece clicks into place. Godmother. The word slams into Arthur Finch with the force of a physical blow. He stumbles back a step, a strangled noise escaping his lips. "Mrs. Sterling," he stammers, his voice a pathetic squeak. The booming authority is gone, replaced by the terrified bleating of a cornered animal. There has been a misunderstanding. The air in the lobby, once his to command, now feels thick and suffocating. The power dynamic has not just shifted, it has been inverted with the brutal, instantaneous force of a lightning strike. One moment, he was the king on his throne. The next, he is the jester in the stocks, and the entire world is watching. Maya gently disentangles herself from Lily's hug, placing a protective hand on the girl's shoulder. She stands up. She seems taller now, her presence filling the space. The simple, comfortable clothes no longer look plain, they look like the confident choice of someone who has no need to impress anyone. Her calm is no longer passive, it is the calm at the eye of a hurricane. "There is no misunderstanding, Arthur," Maya says. Her voice is level, precise, and carries across the silent lobby like the tolling of a funeral bell. It is the first time she has used his first name, and she wields it like a weapon. She turns her gaze to Elizabeth Sterling, but her words are aimed squarely at the crumbling men before her. "Mr. Finch was just explaining hotel policy to me. A policy that seems to involve publicly harassing a woman who is waiting quietly in his lobby. A policy that seems to be selectively enforced." Finch begins to sweat, great beads of it popping out on his forehead and trickling down his temples. "No, I was merely ensuring security protocols were being followed. I didn't recognize her." Maya cuts him off with a cold, dismissive glance. "He was also making some rather serious accusations," she continues, her eyes locking onto his. "He accused me of running a scam. Of using a picture of a child as a prop. Of being one of you people who prey on the decency of others." She picks up her phone from the table. With a flick of her thumb, she stops a recording. "Accusations," she says, holding the phone up for a brief, damning moment, "that I have on a crystal-clear audio file." A collective gasp ripples through the onlookers. The public humiliation Finch had planned for her has just boomeranged with devastating force. He is not just a prejudiced fool, he is a fool who has been caught, red-handed. This is absurd. Finch sputters, his desperation making him loud and clumsy. "I am the manager of this hotel. I have an impeccable record. I was acting in the hotel's best interest." "Whose interest, exactly, were you serving, Arthur?" Maya's voice is a surgeon's scalpel, dissecting his pathetic defense. "You didn't see a person waiting for her family. You saw a black woman in a sweater, and your prejudiced mind filled in the rest. You saw a threat. A problem. A contamination in your perfect, white lobby. You weren't protecting the hotel. You were protecting your own bigotry." She turns to Mrs. Sterling, her expression softening slightly as she looks at her friend, but her words retain their hard edge. "Elizabeth, I have to wonder. This can't be the first time he's done this. This was too practiced. Too comfortable. How many other problems has Arthur Finch escorted from the premises simply because they didn't fit his profile of a paying guest?" The question hangs in the air, implicating not just Finch, but the entire culture he has been allowed to foster. Mrs. Sterling's face is a thundercloud. She looks at Finch with a disgust so profound it seems to make him shrink. He tries to speak, to apologize, to bargain, but only incoherent sounds emerge. His carefully constructed world, his kingdom of marble and prejudice, is dissolving into dust around him. He looks to his security guards for support, but they refuse to meet his eye. They are slowly backing away, disassociating themselves from their fallen commander. Just then, as if on cue, Maya's phone rings. The ringtone is a simple, professional chime, but in the silent lobby, it sounds as loud as an alarm bell. She looks at the caller ID and a faint, grim smile touches her lips for the first time. She answers the call and immediately puts it on speaker. A man's voice, calm, deep, and radiating absolute, unquestionable power, fills the lobby. It is a voice accustomed to being obeyed without question. It is the voice of Marcus Sterling. Finch. The single word is an indictment, a verdict, and a sentence all in one. Arthur Finch freezes, his face turning a ghastly shade of gray. "You are standing in my lobby," the voice from the phone continues, each word a perfectly weighted stone dropped into a silent pool. "You are harassing my wife. You are traumatizing my daughter. And you are publicly humiliating my daughter's godmother, Maya Vance." There is a slight pause. Finch holds his breath. The entire lobby holds its breath. Maya Vance, Marcus Sterling's voice continues, with a new, lethal edge, also happens to be the lead forensic auditor from Vance & Associates. The firm I hired 3 months ago to conduct a top-to-bottom, clandestine investigation into widespread reports of mismanagement, discriminatory hiring practices, and systemic profit skimming across my entire North American hotel portfolio. The revelation detonates in the center of the lobby. It is a concussive blast that leaves everyone reeling. Arthur Finch is not just a bigot who picked the wrong target. He is a corrupt, criminal employee who has just performed his crimes for the chief investigator hired to expose him. He has, with his own arrogance, signed his own death warrant. "You, Mr. Finch," the voice on the phone concludes with chilling finality, "have just become Exhibit A." Maya disconnects the call and slips the phone back into her pocket. She looks at the shattered men before her. "My audit began the moment I sat down in that chair, Arthur," she says, her voice now calm, almost conversational. "I come in, I sit, I observe. I see who gets offered water and who gets ignored. I see who is greeted with a smile and who is met with suspicion. Usually, it takes a few hours to get a baseline reading of a hotel's culture. You, however, gave me everything I needed in less than 15 minutes. Your little performance was quite illuminating." Finch makes a choking sound, his mind finally grasping the sheer, monumental scale of his self-destruction. This wasn't an unfortunate encounter. It was a sting operation, and he had been the star, producer, and director of his own downfall. Mrs. Sterling, her face like stone, points a trembling finger at the 2 security guards. Her voice is a whip crack. "You too. Escort Mr. Finch to his office. He is to pack his personal belongings. Nothing else. Not a paperclip. Not a pen. He is terminated, effective immediately. Then, escort him from this building." She takes a breath, her eyes finding Finch's. "He is, as I believe he was just explaining to my friend, formally trespassed." The guards, relieved to have clear, new orders from the true source of power, step forward. They no longer look confused. They look grimly efficient. Each takes one of Finch's arms. The fabric of his expensive suit bunches in their grip. He does not resist. The fight has gone out of him, replaced by a hollow, echoing shock. As they begin to lead him away, a pathetic, broken figure stripped of all his manufactured dignity, he turns his head to look at Maya one last time. His face is a mask of disbelief, hatred, and a dawning, horrified understanding. You planned this," he whispers, the accusation thin and reedy. Maya looks back at him, her expression devoid of triumph or malice. It is simply the look of a job being done. "No, Arthur," she says, her voice carrying clearly to him and everyone else watching his final, ignominious exit. "You did. I just sat here. You approached me. You judged me. You threatened me. You built this entire cage yourself, key by key, insult by insult. All I did," she concludes, as the guards pull him towards the elevators, "was hold the door open while you walked right into it. The aftermath is not an aftermath. It is a cleansing fire." The story of Arthur Finch's public implosion becomes a legend within the Sterling Group, a cautionary tale whispered in hushed tones from Boston to Beverly Hills. But Maya Vance's work has only just begun. Her audit, with Finch's spectacular self-immolation as its opening chapter, rips through the corporate structure of Sterling Grand Hotels like a hurricane. The audio recording of his tirade becomes the cornerstone of a massive internal investigation. But it is only the beginning. Armed with the full backing of Marcus Sterling, Maya and her team of forensic accountants and investigators descend upon the company's books, its hiring records, its vendor contracts, and its digital communications. What they find is a rot that runs deep, with Arthur Finch at its festering center. For years, he had been running the flagship hotel as his personal fiefdom. The investigation uncovers a sophisticated profit-skimming scheme involving fake maintenance invoices from a shell company he controlled. He had embezzled over $2 million. They find evidence of him systematically firing older employees to replace them with younger, cheaper labor. They unearth dozens of complaints from guests and staff, overwhelmingly people of color, that had been buried, dismissed, or settled with insulting, lowball offers and ironclad non-disclosure agreements. The consequences for Finch are swift, brutal, and absolute. He is not just fired. He is arrested. The embezzlement charges are straightforward, the evidence irrefutable. He is charged with wire fraud, money laundering, and grand larceny. Facing a mountain of evidence and the prospect of decades in prison, he pleads guilty. The judge, a no-nonsense woman who listens to the recording of his lobby tirade in open court, makes an example of him. He is sentenced to 15 years in a federal penitentiary, with no possibility of parole for 10. His assets are seized to pay restitution to the Sterling Group. His pension is forfeited. The beautiful home he paid for with stolen money is sold at auction. His wife leaves him. His name becomes a synonym for disgrace in the industry he once ruled. His ruin is not partial, it is elemental. But Maya's fire does not stop with him. The audit identifies 3 other general managers in the chain who were running similar, smaller-scale scams, and a regional vice president who was taking kickbacks to look the other way. All are terminated and face their own legal battles. The Sterling Group is forced into a painful but necessary period of reckoning. The heroes of the story, however small their role, are rewarded. Leo, the young bellhop who tried to offer Maya a glass of water, is mentioned by name in her final report to Marcus Sterling. Maya highlights his instinctive decency and courage in the face of a toxic command structure. Marcus Sterling, deeply impressed, personally calls Leo into his office. The young man, terrified he is about to be fired for his association with the incident, is instead offered a full scholarship to a prestigious hospitality management program at Cornell University, funded entirely by the Sterling family, along with a guaranteed position in the company's executive training program upon graduation. His life is changed forever by that one simple act of kindness. Maya Vance and her firm are paid a handsome bonus, a percentage of the millions her audit recovered. But her real reward is more profound. Marcus Sterling, humbled and grateful, asks her to stay on, not as an outside consultant, but as a permanent part of the organization. He creates a new C-suite position for her, Chief Oversight and Ethics Officer. She is given unprecedented authority, a seat on the board of directors, and a mandate to rebuild the company's culture from the ground up. She accepts. Her first act is to use the Finch audio as a mandatory training tool for every single employee, from the boardroom to the boiler room. It is a stark, uncomfortable lesson in the poison of implicit bias. She establishes a new, truly anonymous whistleblower hotline, managed by an independent third party. She overhauls the company's hiring and promotion practices to ensure they are equitable. She also uses the money recovered from Finch's criminal enterprise to establish the Sterling Promise Foundation, a charitable fund dedicated to providing scholarships and career opportunities for people from marginalized communities who wish to enter the hospitality industry. The poison is drained, and in its place, an antidote is cultivated. 6 months later. The lobby of the Sterling Grand looks the same, yet it feels entirely different. The marble still gleams, the lilies still scent the air, but the oppressive, judgmental atmosphere is gone. It has been replaced by a genuine warmth. The staff is more diverse, their smiles authentic. Guests of all races, dressed in everything from haute couture to comfortable travel clothes, mingle easily. The kingdom has become a community. Maya Vance sits in the exact same velvet armchair by the fireplace. She is sipping a cup of jasmine tea, waiting. But this time, she is not waiting as a test subject. She is waiting as the architect of this new reality. Leo, looking sharp and confident in a crisp new junior manager's trainee uniform, approaches her. There is no fear in his eyes now, only a deep and abiding respect. Miss Vance, can I get you a refill? He asks, his voice steady. I'm fine, thank you, Leo, she says, smiling warmly. How are your preliminary courses going? They're incredible, he beams. I'm learning so much. Thank you. For everything. You earned it, Leo, she says simply. Just then, Lily and her father, Marcus Sterling, walk in. Lily runs to Maya, giving her a gentle hug this time. Auntie Maya. Dad said we're going for ice cream after your boring meeting. Marcus laughs, a sound that is heard more often in the hotel these days. He sits in the chair opposite Maya. The boring meeting is to approve the first round of scholarships from the foundation, sweetheart. It's the most important meeting I'll have all week. He looks at Maya, his expression one of profound gratitude. You didn't just save my company's reputation, Maya. You saved its soul. I was so focused on the balance sheets, I forgot to check the moral inventory. Maya looks around the bustling, vibrant lobby. She sees a young black family checking in, being greeted with the same deference and warmth as the elderly white couple behind them. She sees a woman in a hijab laughing with a concierge. She sees Leo confidently directing a guest, his posture open and welcoming. This is the result. This is the victory. Not the downfall of one pathetic, hateful man, but the rise of something better in his place. Arthur Finch believed his power was absolute, a fortress built of rules and titles and the color of his own skin. He never understood that such a fortress is built on sand. Prejudice is a disease of the soul, a weakness that masquerades as strength. He looked at Maya and saw everything but the truth. He saw a target, not a titan. He saw a victim, not a visionary. True power isn't found in a manager's uniform or a booming voice. It is not the ability to intimidate the vulnerable. True power is the quiet, unshakable force of integrity. It is the courage to see people as they are, not as your biases wish them to be. It is the truth. And the truth, no matter how long it sits quietly in a lobby, will always, eventually, have its day in the sun. It will have its say. And it will win.